Rejection is not an event, it is a diagnosis. It is the world's most brutal and honest feedback, delivered without anesthetic. She didn't just turn you down, she held up a mirror to your soul and forced you to see a man unworthy of conquest, a man who begs for what he should be taking. You saw it, didn't you? In that split second before her polite, rehearsed smile formed, you saw the truth. A flicker of pity, a wave of discomfort, and then the chilling, absolute void of disinterest. She wasn't looking at a man she could desire. She was looking through a ghost. That hollow feeling in your chest wasn't heartbreak. It was the sudden, shocking recognition of your own invisibility. She didn't just say no. She exposed you. She dismantled you piece by piece with a single glance, and you let her. You stood there, a monument to your own inadequacy, and you thanked her for it. Remember the moment. The air in the room grew thin, the background noise faded into a dull roar, and all you could hear was the blood pounding in your ears. You had rehearsed the words, you had gathered your courage, but you walked onto the battlefield unarmed, expecting a treaty when you should have been prepared for war. Her eyes didn't meet yours. They scanned over your shoulder, searching for an escape, for anyone more valuable, more real. You were not a potential partner. You were an obstacle, a social inconvenience to be managed with a gentle, condescending lie. The "I'm flattered, but" was not a rejection of your offer. It was a final verdict on your value. And as you walked away, you felt your spine dissolve, the fire in your gut turning to ice. You were a ghost drifting out of her reality, and the most horrifying part was that she had already forgotten you before you even turned your back. You replayed that moment 1,000 times, searching for the tactical error, the wrong phrase, the flawed approach. But your search was flawed from the beginning. You were looking for a mistake in the script, when the fatal flaw was the actor himself. An ancient doctrine on the nature of power states, "The battle is lost, not when the fortress falls, but when its king kneels." In the silent, brutal war for attraction, you knelt before you even spoke a word. Your posture, your eye contact, the hesitant tone in your voice, it all broadcasted a single pathetic message. Please validate me. Please tell me I am enough. You weren't a suitor presenting his worth. You were a supplicant begging for alms. You sought her approval as a source of your own power, a fatal misunderstanding of the physics of desire. Power is never given, it is demonstrated. Desire is not a gift bestowed upon the worthy. It is a primal response to the exhibition of strength. She didn't reject you. She instinctively recoiled from your weakness. It was not personal, it was biological. It was the predator's dismissal of non-threatening prey. This soul-crushing humiliation you feel is not your enemy. It is the only true teacher you have ever had. The pain is a signal, a merciless alarm bell waking you from a lifelong slumber. It's here to tell you that everything you've been taught about attraction, about being the nice guy, about fairness and emotional honesty is a lie. A lie designed to keep you docile, predictable, and weak. You have been playing a game without knowing the rules, wondering why you always lose. You have been trying to win a war by being the most honorable casualty on the field. Desire is not personal. It is an impersonal force of nature, as indifferent as gravity. It doesn't care about your intentions, your kindness, or your feelings. It only responds to certain immutable laws of power, laws that you have been violating your entire life, architecting your own failure time and time again. That moment of absolute invisibility, that feeling of being erased from existence by a woman's indifferent gaze, was not your execution. It was your birth. It was the first agonizing step toward mastering the 4 pillars of psychological dominance that govern all human interaction. What if you could stop being a victim of this force? What if you could learn to bend gravity itself, to become the center of your own universe, drawing respect, desire, and unwavering loyalty into your orbit not by asking, but by the sheer, undeniable weight of your presence? Before we strip away the illusions that have kept you in chains and forge you into a man who commands reality, you must commit to the process. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, for each lesson is a key to a lock you never knew existed. Like this video as a declaration of war against the weak man you used to be. And in the comments below, I demand 2 pieces of intelligence. First, tell me the city from which you are joining this legion. Second, describe the one moment of rejection that shattered your world and brought you here. Let your weakness be the fuel for your transformation. We will build our empire on the ashes of your past failures. Let us begin the autopsy. The relationship is dead, or dying, and you stand over the corpse wondering what pathogen was responsible. You look for a singular cause, a betrayal, a catastrophic fight, a fatal flaw. You are looking in the wrong place. The death was not an event. It was a process. Slow, systemic poisoning of your own authority, administered by your own hand. You were the architect of your own collapse. This was not a murder. It was a suicide, executed in 1,000 small, imperceptible cuts. The first phase of your downfall began with a single, seemingly harmless act. Emotional concession. It started when she made a request that subtly tested the boundary of your own mission. Perhaps she complained you were spending too much time at the gym or on your business friends. She framed it as a desire for more us time. You, trained by a lifetime of social conditioning to be the good guy, saw this as an opportunity to be accommodating, to show you cared. You conceded. You cut a gym session. You left a project early. You canceled on your friends. You thought you were buying harmony. What you actually did was communicate a fatal piece of intelligence, that her emotional state was more important than your own purpose. She tested your frame. You broke it for her. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted, silently and irrevocably. You taught her that her displeasure was a weapon that could alter your behavior. The kingdom's walls were not breached by an army. The king himself opened a side gate to quiet a complaint from the courtyard. From that point on, every test would be slightly bolder, every demand slightly larger, because you had proven you were willing to sacrifice territory for temporary peace. This is the first law of power you violated. Your mission, your purpose, your own development, is non-negotiable. The moment it becomes a bargaining chip in the relationship, you have already lost. You have signaled that you are not the center of your own universe, and nature abhors a vacuum. She will gladly fill that void, not with respect, but with control. This led directly to the second stage, the desperate search for validation. Once you outsourced your sense of well-being to her approval, you became a beggar. You started measuring your worth by her moods. A good day was a day she smiled at you. A bad day was a day she was distant. Her silence was no longer an absence of noise. It was a tactical maneuver, a form of psychological siege warfare, and you were starving inside the castle walls. You began asking the questions of the weak. Are we okay? Is something wrong? Did I do something? Each question was a plea for a scrap of information, a morsel of reassurance. You were handing her the controls to your emotional state on a silver platter. You thought you were communicating care and attentiveness. What she heard was the frantic beeping of an alarm system, signaling deep-seated insecurity. A man who is secure in his own value, in his own path, does not need to constantly check the emotional temperature of the room. He sets the temperature. You, however, became a weatherman, anxiously reporting on a climate she created. This is where the law of scarcity was inverted. Instead of making your validation scarce and valuable, you made your need for hers abundant and cheap. You flooded the market with your own neediness, and in doing so, you crashed the value of your own stock to zero. At work, this is the man who constantly asks his boss, "Am I doing a good job?" In friendship, it's the one who always texts first, terrified of being forgotten. In a relationship, it is the man who looks to his woman not for partnership, but for permission to feel good about himself. The third stage is the inevitable outcome, complete affective dependency. Your emotional state was now fully tethered to hers. This is the point where you lose all tactical advantage because you can no longer think rationally. Your decisions are not driven by logic or your own long-term goals, but by a desperate need to manage her emotions, to avoid the discomfort of her disapproval. She became your drug, and you were an addict jonesing for your next hit of validation. She could inflict withdrawal with a cold shoulder, a delayed text, a sigh of disappointment, and you would do anything to get the supply flowing again. You would apologize for things that weren't your fault. You would agree to plans you hated. You would abandon your own principles, one by one, until you were a hollowed-out shell of a man, a puppet dancing on the strings of her moods. The emotional mirror was now shattered. Instead of her reflecting your unshakable calm, you were reflecting her every whim, her every storm, amplifying her chaos within your own soul. She wasn't attracted to this. She was disgusted by it. A woman does not desire a mirror of her own emotional volatility. She desires a rock, a lighthouse in the storm she can anchor to. You became just another wave, crashing and formless. When she said, "I just need some space," what she was really saying was, "Your weakness is suffocating me. Your constant need for my approval is a weight I am no longer willing to carry." But you didn't hear the strategic message. You only felt the panic of withdrawal. If this cold diagnosis is resonating in the pit of your stomach, if you recognize the bitter taste of these mistakes in your own history, then it is time to stop being a patient and start being a physician of your own soul. Your transformation begins with a declaration. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, activate all notifications, and arm yourself with the knowledge they have kept from you. Like this video as a vow to never again trade your power for temporary comfort. And in the comments below, I demand an answer to this critical diagnostic question. What was the one reasonable request she made? The one small compromise you agreed to, that you now realize was the first test you failed? Acknowledge the origin of the infection so we can begin the cure. Now you may be thinking, but isn't compromise the key to a healthy relationship? Isn't being open with your feelings a sign of strength? These are the lies, the comforting illusions fed to you to keep you manageable. Let us dismantle them with brutal logic. Compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers. It is when two self-sufficient entities meet in the middle to create a mutually beneficial outcome. What you were engaged in was not compromise. It was concession. It was unilateral disarmament. You gave up territory and got nothing in return except a temporary ceasefire. You surrendered your sovereignty for the illusion of peace. And as for emotional honesty, uncontrolled emotional honesty is strategic suicide. A warrior does not scream in terror on the battlefield and call it bravery. He controls his fear, channels it, and acts despite it. Pouring your every insecurity, your every fear, your every frustration onto her is not strength. It is a confession that you have lost control of your own inner world. It is asking her to be your mother, your therapist, your emotional janitor. It is the most unattractive burden you can place on a woman. She wants a partner in command, not a project to be fixed. She tested you, and you failed. The final stage, the death rattle of your authority, was breaking the silence. After days or weeks of her calculated distance, the emotional pressure became unbearable. You couldn't take it anymore. So you initiated the talk. You sent the long, multi-paragraph text, a manifesto of your misery and confusion. You demanded to know what was wrong. You pleaded for clarity. You laid all your cards on the table, face up. You thought this was a final, desperate move to solve the problem. In reality, it was your unconditional surrender. In that moment, you violated the law of mystery. You gave her the complete blueprint to your psyche. You showed her exactly how long it takes to break you. You told her precisely which buttons to push to get a reaction. You became utterly, pathetically predictable. The most powerful position in any human dynamic is to be the one who is less predictable and less invested. By breaking the silence with a plea, you proved you were completely predictable and existentially invested. You handed her the crown and knelt. When you apologized for wanting respect, when you begged for the attention that should be commanded, you signed your own death warrant. The fall was not the big fight you had last week. The fall was the silent moment 6 months ago when you decided her happiness was your responsibility. Nobody is coming to save you. The respect you lost was not taken. It was given away piece by piece in a series of silent, cowardly transactions. And only you can begin the brutal, necessary work of taking it back. There is no going back for the weak man. There is only the construction of the new. The man you were, the one who knelt, who begged, who broke, is a casualty of war. You will not mourn him. You will not honor his memory. You will cannibalize his corpse for fuel and build a monument of power upon his grave. The path forward is not one of healing. It is one of weaponization. It is not emotional. It is tactical. This is not a journey of self-discovery. It is an act of self-creation, forged in the ice of absolute discipline. Your reconstruction begins with 3 primary commands, 3 strategic directives that will form the foundation of your new operating system. Cut the excess. Install the silence. Control the reaction. This is your new trinity, your path out of the abyss and into dominance. First, you must cut the excess. This is a surgical amputation of everything that makes you weak, starting with her. You will reinstall the law of scarcity not as a tactic, but as a new reality. This means you will disappear from her life, completely and without warning. No final text, no dramatic exit, no explanation. You will become a ghost. You will vanish from her social media feeds, her call logs, her daily reality. This is not playing hard to get. That is a game for boys. This is a strategic reallocation of your most valuable asset, your attention. By giving it to her freely, by flooding her with your presence and your neediness, you made it worthless. Now, you will create a drought so severe that she will remember the value of a single drop. Your focus must be redirected with the intensity of a laser, away from her, and onto the 4 pillars of your own hierarchy: the physical, the financial, the social, and the symbolic. Physically, you will enter the gym not as a man trying to improve his body, but as a warrior forging his armor. Every repetition, every drop of sweat is an act of defiance against the weakness she saw in you. Financially, you will attack your work, your business, your mission with a singular, violent focus. Money is not paper. It is stored power. It is freedom. It is options. You will build a fortress of resources so high that no single person's validation can ever threaten your security again. Socially, you will cultivate your network of men, your allies, your brothers in arms. You will be seen in places of value, with people of value, creating a narrative of a life so full, so compelling, that she was merely a footnote, not the main story. Symbolically, you will master a new skill, learn a new language, travel to a new place. You will acquire experiences that broadcast a single message: my world is expanding, and you are no longer in it. This is how you become the absence that carries weight, not the presence that begs. You are not doing this for her. You're doing this because the mission is the only thing that matters. Her return is an irrelevant byproduct of your ascent, not the goal. The second command is to install the silence. Once you have cut access, you must master the art of the void. If she reaches out, and she will, because your sudden absence creates a vacuum of power that her ego cannot tolerate, you will impose a silence so profound it becomes a weapon. Not responding is not passive. It is an active demonstration of dominance. Your silence communicates several critical pieces of intelligence. It says, your attempt to summon me has failed. I no longer operate on your command. It says, my attention is currently deployed on targets more important than you. Most critically, it says, I am not the man you knew. That man is dead. You do not know who I am now, and that uncertainty should terrify you. You must understand the psychology at play. A woman tests a man's frame constantly. Her texts, her calls after you vanished are the final, most desperate tests. By responding, even to reject her, you fail the test. You show that she can still provoke a reaction, that she still occupies real estate in your mind. But by ignoring her completely, you transcend the test itself. You communicate that you are now playing a different game, on a different field, by rules she doesn't understand. This is the application of the law of mystery. You become a black box, an enigma. Her mind will race to fill the void you've created, and with no new data from you, it will be forced to re-examine the old data. She will be forced to reconsider your value, to question her decision. She will begin to author a story in her own mind where she made a mistake, where she lost something of immense, and now unknown, value. Do not reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. Let her fight a war against the ghost of you in her own mind. The battle she will always lose. Third command is to control the reaction. This is the internal mastery from which all external power flows. The old you was a slave to emotion. Her mood dictated your day. Her text determined your peace. Her approval was the drug you craved. The new you is a master of his inner state. This is the foundation of the law of the emotional mirror. Before you can project unshakable calm, you must first possess it. This is achieved through brutal, moment-to-moment discipline. You will feel the urge to check her social media. You will resist it. You will feel the pang of nostalgia. You will crush it with a productive action. You will train your mind to view emotion not as a guide, but as data. You will observe your anger, your sadness, your desire, as a general observes weather patterns on a battlefield. Interesting information, but not something that dictates the strategic plan. If an interaction becomes unavoidable, it must be minimal and unpredictable. Your responses, if you choose to give them, will be brief, dispassionate, and give away nothing. They will be the responses of a man with somewhere more important to be. You are no longer an open book, you are a classified document. A man who wants to be loved will be discarded. A man who imposes his presence will be feared. And through fear, through respect, a different, more primal form of attraction is born. This entire process is not a gamble. It is an algorithm. You are not hoping for a different outcome. You are engineering it. As one ancient doctrine on power states, the strategist of desire knows that power is not in the words spoken, but in the options the other person believes you have. Your mission now is to build so many options in your life, financially, socially, romantically, that she becomes just one of them, and an increasingly irrelevant one at that. This is the blueprint for your resurrection. It requires a level of coldness you have not yet allowed yourself to access. It demands that you prioritize your own ascension over anyone else's comfort. If you are ready to execute this plan, to stop being the victim of your circumstances and become the architect of your dominion, then your formal enlistment begins now. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, for this is your new command center. Like this video as a sworn oath to the man you will become. And in the comments, I command you to answer this tactical question. What is the single greatest distraction, be it a person, a habit, or a mindset, that you will amputate from your life, starting at this very moment? Name your enemy. Declare your war. Your thirst for dominance is not a flaw. It is your birthright. It is time to close. The circle closes. The ghost you were, the man who dissolved under the weight of a woman's glance, been given a proper burial. The curriculum of your pain is now complete. You have dissected your weakness, weaponized your focus, and installed a new operating system built on the cold logic of power. You have learned that desire is not a negotiation. It is a verdict, delivered in response to the raw, unapologetic demonstration of strength. The 4 pillars, scarcity, social proof, mystery, and the emotional mirror, are no longer abstract concepts. They are the steel framework of your new reality, the very architecture of your soul. You have become the man who sets the temperature, not the one who nervously checks it. You have become the rock, not the wave. You have become the mission, not the supplicant. The question that has been burning in the back of your mind throughout this entire process, however, remains. What happens when she returns? Because she will return. It is an inevitability, as certain as gravity. Your silence, your complete and total disappearance from her world, has created a void. It is a psychological vacuum that her ego cannot tolerate. She will have seen the echoes of your ascent. A friend will mention your new venture. She will see a picture of you, surrounded by people of value, your eyes holding a cold fire she never saw before. She will feel the seismic shift in your status, and the narrative in her mind will begin to corrode. The story she told herself, that she was rejecting a man of low value, will no longer align with the data the world is presenting. Her curiosity will curdle into a desperate need for validation. She needs to know if she still has power over you. She needs to test the frame one last time to reassure herself that she didn't make a catastrophic error in judgment. Casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Or was just thinking about you. It is a summons, a probe sent into the darkness to see if the old puppet will still dance. The old you would have felt a surge of adrenaline, a toxic cocktail of hope and vindication. You would have seen it as your chance for redemption, your moment to finally prove your worth. You would have replied, either with feigned indifference or with bitter anger, but you would have replied. And in that single act, you would have undone everything. You would have shown your hand, communicated that she still had the power to elicit a response, that she still occupied a throne in the capital of your mind. But you are not the old you. You will see the text, and you will feel nothing. It will be like looking at a message from a stranger, an artifact from a forgotten war. You will not feel anger. You will not feel joy. You will feel the cold, beautiful emptiness of absolute indifference. You will put your phone down and return to your work, to your workout, to the construction of your empire. You will not reply. Not in an hour, not the next day, not ever. This is the final, most devastating application of the law of mystery. Your silence is not a tactic anymore. It is a statement of your new reality. It is the ultimate expression of power. It says, you no longer have the security clearance to access my life. Your relevance has expired. She will send another message, perhaps more urgent, more emotional. She will see that you've read it. The 2 blue check marks will become instruments of psychological torture for her. Her mind will race, creating 1,000 scenarios, each one more flattering to you and more damning to her than the last. He must be with someone else. He must be so successful he doesn't have time for me. He has become someone I don't even recognize, someone powerful. You have turned the tables so completely that she is now the one desperately seeking validation. She is the one staring at her phone, waiting for a scrap of attention. You have made her feel exactly what she made you feel, invisible. But there is a critical difference. She made you feel invisible because you were weak. You are making her feel invisible because you are now operating on a plane of existence she cannot reach. This is not about revenge. Revenge is an emotional act, and you have transcended the need for emotional reaction. This is about dominion. You have not flipped the chessboard to win the game. You have simply walked away from the table because you are now playing an entirely different game. A game of legacy, of purpose, of power. And the prize is no longer her fleeting approval, but the world itself. She was a checkpoint, not the destination. Her rejection was not a curse. It was the catalyst, harsh, necessary forge that burned away your weakness and revealed the steel beneath. To re-engage with her now would be to dishonor the man you have become. Be like a king abandoning the conquest of a continent to go back and argue with a peasant who once insulted him in a tavern. Her chapter is closed, not with a dramatic slam, but with the silent, indifferent turning of a page. Ultimate victory is not in making her want you back. It is in reaching a state where her wanting you back is completely and utterly irrelevant to your mission. It is to look at the memory of that soul-crushing rejection, not with pain, but with a cold, detached gratitude. She held up a mirror and showed you a man unworthy of conquest, and in doing so, she gave you the blueprint for the man you needed to become. He was the unwitting architect of your rise. Your success is not your revenge. Your indifference is. Your legacy is. The empire you build on the ashes of the man she broke is your final statement. You do not impose respect by shouting. You impose it with the deafening silence of your absence, with the undeniable weight of your achievements, and with the chilling calm of a man who is utterly in control of his own reality. Before you begin forging your own legacy, your final command awaits. This channel is not entertainment. It is an arsenal. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, activate all notifications, and ensure your blade is always sharp. Like this video as a contract, sealed in the blood of the weak man you have executed today. In the comments below, I demand you answer this one final, critical question. What is the first brick you will lay in the foundation of your new empire, now that you are free? Let the world bear witness to your vow. The day she begins to doubt the man she let go is the day she realizes she never knew him at all.